All right, here we are back for day 2 at Oakwood Cemetery. There were a few graves that I wasn't able to get to on the first day, and there was one grave that I was actually driving around for and searching for, so I actually got to get to it today. So let's go ahead and get started in the mausoleum. So if you enter the cemetery, off to your right, you'll see a big mausoleum, and inside of this sanctuary of life section of the mausoleum, we're actually going to find the grave of Chicago gangster Willie Stokes and his son, the Wimp.
Flukey Stokes' violent death was consistent with a life full of corruption, dope dealing, and murder. Flukey wanted people to believe his diamonds, cars, and cash came from Lady Luck.
I'm a gambler. I shoot pool, dice.
Maybe in the beginning, but 9 years ago, he traded in his dice and cards for cocaine and heroin. And Willie Flukey Stokes built a drug empire that left nothing to chance.
William Flukey Stokes was a famous South Chicago gangster. He lived an incredibly lavish lifestyle, flaunting his wealth from proceeds made from selling drugs and gambling in his local pool spot. He is famously known for all of his fur coats, silk suits, and gaudy gold jewelry. He was viciously gunned down outside of his mistress's home in 1986 at the age of 48 along with his driver. His son, the Wimp, also a local drug dealer and gangster, was gunned down at the age of 28 in 1984, and his father famously funeralized him in a Cadillac-shaped casket with his body adorned in gold jewelry and $100 bills. Here is the final resting place of Flukey Stokes and the Wimp. Now, next to the Wimp is Tommy Andrew Dorsey, known as the father of gospel music. He was a blues and jazz turned gospel musician and composer, born in Georgia in 1899. Dorsey gained early fame on tour with Ma Rainey, and after migrating to Chicago, he turned to Christianity, becoming a music director of Pilgrim Baptist Church on Chicago's South Side, writing and composing over 3,000 songs throughout his career, working with artists like Reverend James Cleveland, Albertina Walker, who we'll see later on today, Shirley Caesar, and Mahalia Jackson. He founded the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses. His most famous tune, Take My Hand, Precious Lord, came after the death of his first wife and son during childbirth. He was a mentor and musician to many. He passed from Alzheimer's in 1993 at the age of 93. Now, out on the lawn, to the left of the main entrance when you enter into Oakwood Cemetery, you'll find the above ground crypt of Albertina Walker, who was a gospel legend. Born in Chicago in 1929, Albertina was a famous gospel singer who performed with the likes of Mahalia Jackson, Shirley Caesar, and Reverend James Cleveland, her friends and mentors. Known as the Queen of Gospel, Walker sang with various gospel groups, church choirs, and recorded over 60 gospel albums. Walker even sang for two U.S. presidents as well as South African President Nelson Mandela, and was elected into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame in 2001. Albertina Walker died at the age of 81 from emphysema in 2010. And across from Albertina Walker, um, you will find the grave of Otis Lee Clay, who is a famous R&B and soul singer whose roots started in gospel music. Born in 1942 in Mississippi, Clay finally settled in Chicago after joining numerous gospel groups, including the famous Blue Jay Singers, the Gospel Songbirds, and the Sensational Nightingales. In 1965, Clay signed to Wonderful Records here in Chicago, producing Billboard hits such as That's How It Is When You're in Love and A Lasting Love, which reached numbers 34 and 48 on the top R&B charts respectively. This Blues Hall of Fame legend died in 2016 from a heart attack at the age of 73. Now, also nearby, we find the final resting place of Enrico Fermi, who was born in 1901 in Italy. He was a physicist who moved or immigrated to Chicago to work at the University of Chicago during World War II because he had a Jewish wife. He was the creator of the world's first nuclear reactor, and he was also a member of the Manhattan Project. He is known as the architect of the atom bomb, and also he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1938 for his work on radioactivity. He passed away in Chicago at the age of 53. Directly across from the Johnson and the Henry Ford tombs are the Confederate and Union mounds. And it's actually a mass grave of Confederate soldiers that were buried in the city cemetery that used to be located in Lincoln Park Zoo, and there's actually like one crypt still up there. I think it's either the Couch or the Crouch Mausoleum, and trust me, we'll definitely go there one day because that one is always really interesting. I love going to go visit that. But yes, here we are with the Confederate mound, and it has all of the names inscribed on it. Absolutely beautiful, actually. Beautiful, beautiful. Erected to the memory of the 6,000 Southern soldiers here buried who died in Camp Douglas prison. Wow. What does it say? 1862 to 1865. And this is about Camp Douglas prison and how all of the prisoners that died were moved here into a mass burial. So this is actually a mass burial. Oh, look at the beautiful butterfly. This monument was conceived and erected by the ex-Confederate Association, Camp Number 8, Chicago, Illinois. And wow, all of the names. Bloody, bloody war. But let me tell you, some of us are very, very, very grateful for that bloody, bloody war. Confederate mound. I hope you all can see it is pretty bright outside. It's beautiful. I like this cemetery because even though it is in the heart of the neighborhood, it actually is very, very quiet out here. It's so incredibly quiet and peaceful while you're out here. So this is the Confederate mound. You can't miss it. And don't worry, there's also a Union monument near the front of the cemetery. So we're about to go back to the car. As you can see, there's John H. Johnson, there's Eunice Johnson, Ruckheim's. Those are the creators of the what do you call it? The Cracker Jacks. And then let's try to get back to our car without getting attacked by geese. Um, we also so on the other side is Jesse Owens. And on this side, we're gonna keep on going. Oh my God, and all these geese. Let's hope that we can even get by because I do not like geese. I'm not even gonna lie to you about that one. I do not like geese. Mhm. All right, so at this point in time is where I'm looking for the grave of mob boss Big Jim Colosimo, who was an Italian American mafia crime boss who immigrated from Italy, and I'm reading straight from Wikipedia, in 1895, and he came to Chicago, where he ran a prostitution, gambling, and racketeering ring. And also, he had a bunch of brothels, and he was the gang leader up until he was assassinated on May 11th, 1920. And also, I think they said that Al Capone eventually took over after Colosimo was murdered, but nobody was ever caught for his murder. So we're approaching that grave, and I hope you all
This is
enjoyed
the Chicago Fire Department
everything
Memorial.
that we saw
Let me just
today,
check.
and also during last time at Oakwood Cemetery. I will say that I definitely love this cemetery. It's nice, peaceful, and quiet. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of Black history in this cemetery. Um, Definitely, there are a few graves that I wasn't able to get out to, but if you were able to find them, let me know. Jennifer Hudson's family is buried here. Ben Wilson, the Chicago basketball player that was killed, is buried here. There's a few suffragettes. There's the first lady that portrayed Aunt Jemima, Nancy Green. She's also buried here at Oakwoods. So if you happen to come out to Oakwood Cemetery on the south side of Chicago and see those graves, please, please make sure you tag me. I hope you enjoyed this series, and our next series is going to be on Battle Creek. Have a wonderful time.